Let's move on quickly, gentlemen. A global icon deserves global recognition and adulation. Nigeria's Professor Wole Soyinka, a globally celebrated playwright, novelist, poet, essayist, actor, singer, composer, who won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1986, becoming the first African to win the prize in that category, has turned 90. The foremost advocate of good governance and just society attracted accolades from President Bola Tinubu, who described him as one of the finest minds of his generation. President Tinubu, who congratulated Professor Soyinka on his 90th birthday, also describes him as Nigeria's shining light and a gift to the world. In his honor, the federal government has renamed the National Theatre in Iganmu, Lagos, as the Wole Soyinka Center for Culture and the Creative Arts. Doctor, let me start with you. Happy birthday to Professor Wole Soyinka.
Happy birthday to Prof. As I was driving here, I thought to myself, any journalist who has not been privileged to interview Prof or exchange emails with him or text messages, the journalist has missed it. Because what all Prof needs to do is just a one-liner, and you are made for the day. Your story is there. His words are loaded. It's left for you to be able to read in between. And the thing about Prof is, once he trusts your judgment, you are good with him. You are good with him. Because if he gives you an answer to a question and you misrepresent him, you'll get a mail very quickly. And the way he's going to put it, you'll be angry with yourself and you'll be happy with yourself at the same time. That's, okay, so I don't even understand simple English. Then happy with yourself. He's a great man. And one thing I cherish with him, apart from, it's being able to pour himself into others, is the fact that he's very healthy at night. Sometimes you want to chase Prof, and he's telling you, traveling at 11 p.m., meet me at the airport for an interview. Or he's telling you, I have to be in the US tomorrow, but I'll be up by 5 a.m. So if you come in anytime before 7, I'll attend to you. That's the kind of man. He's sharp, and I love him.
What would you say about Prof?
Well, I think it's one of the greatest human beings. From his 20s, he has been in the front burner of national discourse. Up till now, he's still there. Main issue of discourse, literature all over the world. And, he has written 52 books in 64 years.
First encounter with his books was Lion and the Jewel.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
You know, The Interpreter was in 1965. And if you read, was set forth at dawn. Voluminous. Writing that huge book at that age, I think it's a very rare gift. And if you have another opportunity to talk with him, at 90, he remains articulate, he remains sharp, he remains very smart. You know, I think he's a man of colors. He's an icon, you know. He's a man that is very difficult to describe. I think he's a gift to our generation. And I doubt if you can have two of such people in one generation. He's a very honest man. He dedicates his book to the fight against injustice. And he has been a victim of injustice himself, kept in solitary confinement for 2 years, you know, just because he wanted negotiation between Nigeria and Biafra. And at the time, he had to ride on Okada from Lagos to Benin Republic just because some people wanted to kill him. You can imagine a country that felt the next thing to do was to kill Professor Soyinka for that matter. So I think conferring the Nobel Laurel on him in 1986, this was one of the things that was said. For his wide cultural perspective and poetic overtones fashioning the drama of existence. That captures life of Soyinka. Who are criticizing him on social media, they are, I'm sorry for them. If they know his history, they will know that this is a monument. And I'm happy that I presided over a conference about 2 weeks ago where he was given the award of a stainless steel generation. And I was also at the program, the media summit yesterday that was also built around it, with a lot of scholars from all over the world speaking about this great icon. So I'm happy at 90. Professor Soyinka remains sharp and
All right, gentlemen, joining us for more discussion on this issue is a culture curator, communicator, and former editor at The Guardian, German and Nikulapo. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. So, Prof is 90, and events are being organized to celebrate him. What is the significance of these events, not just for him, but for the country?
Okay. Well, I think the statement made by my colleague who worked at The Guardian together, Wole Soyinka, and my other brother, journalist there, I think they set the context in which you have to appraise Wole Soyinka and his contribution to public discourse, the way we put it. I think Wole touched on something about his traducers on social media. And we realized that what's happening is that they don't really understand it, but they don't know it. And it's been stated in so many places that this is one, I don't want to use the big word I will use, but this is one character who means well, or who is consistently misunderstood. Because most of the time when we fall into our ethnic enclaves, and when we fall into our prejudices, we tend to lose the sense of the occasion. So, Wole Soyinka is being introduced by those young people. In fact, I had the calls to call one of them to say, look, this all the things you're saying about the man's contribution to national discourse, he has written about, if there's anybody who has written so much about his life, about his character, about his public engagement, there's only one writer I can think of in Nigeria. He has 5 memoirs. 5. Ake, from the age 3 to about 9. He wrote Ishara, which was developed from the box of letters and communication he found about his father. Then he wrote about Ibadan, when his real political activism started. And then he wrote about You Must Set Forth at Dawn, not to talk of The Man Died. You know, all these books, if you don't read these books, you'll be so informed, and you will not be commenting as a misinformed or miseducated or misenlightened person. So what we're doing, because I'm very central to the entire program, is that we're bringing some of these things out just to be able to, educate, and enlighten. That's what we have done. For instance, I'm speaking to you now from Freedom Park. What we've done here now is to put this four of the memoirs, Ake, Ishara, Ibadan, when Clemens hears, and You Must Set Forth at Dawn. We put them in the hands of young people, mostly undergraduates from University of Lagos and Lagos State University, and they have their colleague joining them from Ekiti, Ibadan, PBU, and Co. They are reading from these books, and they are debating, they are discussing it. No adults. If you see any adult there, it was just to have some kind of guidance for them. So, young people, we want to see whether they will even understand what is going on about the life of this character called Wole Soyinka. And they're doing it fantastic. In fact, they've been on Instagram or social media. I've even learned quite a lot from them. So it's a way of reintroducing this man to young people. And as Wole Soyinka said, all over, I just came back from Morocco 2 days ago. The Royal Kingdom of Morocco gave him a state reception. Even I went with him. I was not able to even get to him. I was already being driven back until he told them, no, you should let him come to me. And so he has been celebrated in Morocco, in Abu Dhabi, in Florence, in Italy. They've taken his pictures to about 9 cities in Europe and in South Africa and the rest of them. And he continued throughout the rest of them.
Right. So I was talking about these events being held across the world to honor him at 90. How deserving would you say he is?
He's very much deserving of all of this. Because, number one, he didn't recruit anybody to honor him. In fact, he told us, in fact, him in particular, he said, whatever you want to do, know that I'm not part of it. Because in March, I had suspected that, as usual, we also call him behind his back, the artful dodger. He knows how to dodge stuff. So in March, when we had the World Poetry Day, which he founded and to which I'm directed, we ambushed him on stage by bringing poets and we said we must force him to get on. He said no. So we had to appeal to a member of the family to get him on stage. So we started this whole celebration in March. And he said, look, why are you people doing all this? I'm not interested in that. Oh, so, and he told us that all the celebrations, he doesn't want to be at the center of it. The only one he wanted to do, which he has been doing for 15 years, and that's on the platform of the Wole Soyinka International Cultural Exchange, which we started 15 years ago by Z Mirage and Global New Haven. We've been doing this for 15 years. Every year we celebrate this man. He wants to meet only the 90 finalists in the essay competition. There was a national essay competition, and the 90 finalists have been chosen. They are right now in Abeokuta. In fact, if I was not doing this, I would be on my way to Abeokuta. They are right now in Abeokuta around his house because he's going to receive them tomorrow. And that's the reason he's flying back in the country to be able to, because he says that one he does not want to miss. Of course, he will then do one or two other things. And we know of state government who want to have separate dinner for even he told me, he said he became a joiner. Like he joined one state from the north and one state from the south. That if they know they want to have a dinner for him, let them combine. You can imagine that. It's so he doesn't cut it. He's not asking for it. He's celebrated already, whether we celebrate him or not. He wasn't sub. To tell you how they're moving him around. If he had the strength, he would have been to all those places. So he's very much deserving. If you really understand national treasures, because it's not only when politicians want to do stuff that you rule out the drum. No, politicians don't rule our world. The visionaries, the artists, the humanists, they run our world. But politicians help us to shape some of these discourses. You can celebrate politicians endlessly. Why can't we do it for the only one, was it Wale who said it or my other brother, that out of all of those people with whom they fought for, because they fought for independence, so apart from politicians, they were using their talent to do it. He's the only one who is still living. Perhaps Chivabe, Mekayo, and a few others. So if Nigeria does not want to celebrate him, it doesn't bother him. I wrote him an email. I said, "Oh, National Theatre has just been named after you." He said, "Okay, that's all. One line. That's all." That's all. So you wish you can is. He's sitting in the place that to him, like former Governor Fashola, in the Kongi Harvest Art Gallery here. He is hardly here, even though he has an officer. So he doesn't really got favor that people should praise him. So when I read some of the comments on social media and they say, is he friend to the president, is he friend to this, because of that? No, they don't know Soyinka. Maybe those of us who are students and associates, we know. They don't know him, that he doesn't care. He rather have
also, Mr. Nicolapo, how do you think these events will inspire new generations of global icons from this country?
I think it will. As I told you, we brought out these young people because if you see the literature and the artistic presentation of some of our young people, you could see 1 million or thousands of Wole Soyinka in them. What has led to their being perfunctory in what they do, or underdeveloped, or existing in a state of arrested development, is the nature of the environment. I was just reading something this morning about the budget for, is it United Nations complaining that our budget for education and health, two critical things, is too low to even be mentioned, not to talk of habitation, habitats, housing and the rest of them. It means that we're living below level. So if you have an education system where students are out of school more than they are inside the school, you can see why this potential Wole Soyinka will not emerge. some of the people who have been mad, who have become star, is because, not because they drank a different blood. You either go outside to get legitimized, or you are just lucky. And we don't want to continue to have freak occurrences. We want to have a multitude of Wole Soyinka, a multitude of these great guys who have been blessed with skill and talent, and who can deploy this in the course of nation building. Because nation building is not only by serving in the Senate or being a governor. It's by contributing your own quota from the resources that God has given to you. So that's what we think, that by celebrating Soyinka, we're actually celebrating all of us, every one of us. And we're not lamenting. We're just saying that, look, if you get this environment right, you produce a lot more. Look at what young Nigerians are doing in fintech, in technological world, in startups, and the rest of them. Just give them the environment, empower them, educate them, enlighten them, and empower them. That's what my own organization, Committee for Relevant Art, that's what we stand for. And that's why we're bringing this young people, to let them get to read about the lives of Soyinka, which they are documented.
Well, one of the things that you mentioned now in passing has been this issue of our education. Because a lot of people, especially after the last election, felt that the major problem that those who went on social media and ranted against Prof was the fact that they weren't educated. And people feel that because of the language he used in communicating some of these things. Are you not worried? Because even in the media, this is happening, that we are perhaps losing this literature culture that we built from primary school with the kind of books that we read, and then secondary school, and then up. Are you not scared yourself that even in the media now, because you as editor, even before you became editor, you had a very strong hold on culture. But after the passage of your own generation, we are not seeing that in the newspapers again. What do we do? Where do we go from here?
Yeah, thank you very much. Number one, I'm no longer an editor. I stopped being editor 11. I left the service of the Guardian.
Yeah.
There are times when I tell myself that if I was still in the newsroom, and I think Wole can speak to my temperament as an editor, I'm not sure I would have been able to survive the current newsroom. Because gatekeeping is saying that. I would not have survived. I don't want to say I committed, what do you call it now, professional suicide. I wear dance in the nightclub and carry drum and act on it. Fortunately, I studied theater, So I would not have been able to survive. So what you are touching now is very critical. Is a kind of education that we are now giving to our children. Unfortunately, we've not been able to run a good schooling system. Then, unfortunately, which should have been fortunately, we now have the mobile phones. See, parenthood, guardianship, mentorship that used to be done physically. As a journalist yourself, in those days, you have sub-editor, you have so many lines of people that you have to pass through before you can get a copy into the paper or even onto television, where we are now. Right now, that kind of gatekeeping is no longer there. So people don't write the script, and somebody sent me something this morning. He said he was trying to research something that we've done in the past. You know what he did? He went on, I call it ChatGPT. He went on ChatGPT and he brought out the story. And I was reading and I said, who said all of this? Because they were constructing words around, even Soyinka himself. They were constructing words around what I said and what our speaker said, or me or Shundari. This level of people. They were constructing words around what they said. They were just inventing. And that was what came through ChatGPT. So what you are saying now, just imagine the problem we're going to have when people now fully get into ChatGPT, and that's what they're going to use to be writing their story, because you have to be very smart as an editor to know that this story has to be. So I'm worried. I'm worried that I'm worried about where we're going. The parenthood that I spoke about is that parents are no longer the parents of old. They are no longer like my dad, 7 feet plus, who I know if I commit any offense, I can run. He will just bend and grab me, or I will not get into that house. Now the parenthood is on parentship is on phone. They get more parenting on telephone and on social media than they get from their parents. And unfortunately, we're also in a situation of economic problem now that most parents now have to do double works, or they have to the hustling. The hustling has become our new culture. So parents have to go and earn money to even keep the children fed. So you can't blame them for not having time. But when the parent gives instruction to his own children, and then they go on the net and they find something else, you know, the one that's more attractive, the one that comes with colorful packaging and all of this, and that's the one that they're likely to follow. I know this because I listened to some of my friends when they talked about what they're discovering about their children and all of that. And I said, look, it's a thing that the system, the Nigerian nation, ought to take very seriously. That number one, we must not get the education system wrong. Number two, there must be a way of intervention. I'm not saying seize their phone or put regulatory thing, but the way you counter anti-culture, it will counter it through pro-culture. You can use culture to counter culture, but it has to be there. And you have art. We have accomplished writers, theater artists, musicians, and co. who can counter some of these things that are going on. So you wonder, what's the national orientation, doing? National Institute for Cultural Orientation doing? All these agencies that have been empowered, that have been set up by the state to be able to provide another level of education for this young people. What are they doing? I don't see it. So I'm very worried, just like you. I'm really very worried about what the future holds. Fortunately, I'm on the last phase of my own exit. So, moving toward the
help us.
Yeah.
But do you then support those who say we should make history and literature a must for secondary school students? Do you think that idea is going to help us?
It's a great idea, especially literature. Because if you take history out of national education, the only way you can then bring it through the back door to expose them to literature that I've spoken about this. Just imagine the question of Biafra, which Soyinka himself says Biafra is in the mind. It's not the physical carrying project. No, it's in the mind. Those who, if you wake up at Shebe today and he will tell you what Biafra meant to them, or Christopher or Kibu, even Ojukwu himself, all those who were really active in that, it is true that it is not by sitting behind the social media and abusing people when you have not even read the story. A system like ours, when you know that you have killed history, although they said they brought it back, not saying where it's been taught, if you have killed history, what you can do, the state can produce series on that history and put it on the screen. I do a bit of work in Germany, and I know one of the things that we use as material is that there's a film called Heimat, Homeland. When it came out in those days, I think it was in the early 90s or so, and I happened to be able to watch it. And you could see what they did in terms of the volume of materials that they put into that film. So that you are watching this thing the same way you watch soap opera and all of that. It's the same way that they program IMAT. So IMAT became part of the education. My daughter is in Germany too. She's undergoing this. They produced a film called Lola. Lola too is an educational thing. Sponsored by who? By the state, through the agencies that they formed. They're not saying the presidency should do it. Agencies, education ministry, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of this. These are the kind of, but it has to be deliberate action.
Yeah. All right, so, after a road was named after him in Abuja, President Tinubu followed that up by naming the National Theatre Iganmu, Lagos, after him. How significant is that?
Well, I'm sorry to say that sometimes the government has to be very careful the way they communicate things. Number one, if you check the street name after him, he first of all named this boulevard. The contention by some of us was that why will you remove somebody's name, especially a name from the north, and replace it with a southern? Even with all the optics was wrong. Eventually, they discovered, because the communication, sometimes I'm confused on who is doing what in the communication team of the president. The first president said, oh, I'm confused, honestly. I'm confused. The two of them are friends. He said it's the old Bolivar. So we were going to contest that, I mean, in our own way. Then they said, no, it's a street corner that named after. So I don't even know where that is. Look at the national charter. Now, if you check on social media, the good intention of the president is being misunderstood. Now, because the first statement, which came out on Twitter or somewhere, said the national charter. Only for people to start that center, but national data has a name, including that being Wole Soyinka Center, Wole Soyinka this or that. In other words, in fact, national data is not called Center for Culture and National Creativity. So where is that? I now read a post by somebody who is in government who said, look, there's a unit in the national theater that is called that name, that is called Center for Culture and Entrance D of National Theater. So, is it the center named after him or the national theater? Up till now, and this thing has been trending for over 24 hours now. Nobody has responded.
All right.
So you can't be creating this kind of confusion anymore.
All right.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Nikolapo, we have to let you go, but thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We've been speaking with Jaman and Nikolapo, culture curator, communicator, and former editor at The Guardian. Thank you so much for joining us.
One of Nigeria's finest journalists.
Yeah. One of Nigeria's finest journalists. Thank you so much for joining us. And once again, happy birthday to Professor Wole Soyinka. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, we have to go. But quickly, do you see Prof slowing down at 90?
Oh. I think he's one of those who will die standing. I don't see him doing that.
All right.
It's not slowing down.
All right, then.
As we speak.
It's been an interesting conversation today. Thank you, gentlemen. Dr. Oladipo and Adewale Odoye, thank you so much for joining us in the program. Thank you, everyone, for watching. That's all on Journalist Hangout on Sunday. Join us tomorrow for the regular episode of the program at 5 p.m. You can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode tonight at 11:30. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.